3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Texas Private School Podcast. As always, I'm one half of your hosting crew, Wes Tolleson, joining you from the heart of Dallas, Texas. Joining me today is my co-host, Walker Lott, joining you from the pride of Aggieland, the home of all things good and pure, College Station, Texas. Walker Lott, as always, another fantastic week in the ranks of private school football. And first of all, how are you? Second of all, what do you take away from this last week?
I'm doing good, football wise. SES won, my alma mater won. A&M won, Monroe, but still a win. We bounced back. And then the Cowboys look fantastic. We're going to the Super Bowl, mark my words. And another also great week in Texas high school football. So what more do you want? What I have to talk about though is what is that hat you were wearing? It does look awesome. Shout out to Dallas Christian, but you're a Cougar, man. Born and bred, what is this deal? But also shout out St. Thomas for the plug, for the merch. Love you guys.
I've got to give a huge shout out to Grant Tonic and Dallas Christian. I saw them wearing. I've never seen these hats before, and I'm a huge hat guy. Anywhere I go, if like they're ever asking, "Hey, do you want merch or something?" I'm like, "Hat, give me a hat."
Right.
And I saw them wearing these hats. First of all, I love blue. Second of all, I love the hats with the little rope on the front. And third, I love script. So I saw this, and you could have literally wrote anything on this hat with script, the rope, and the blue, and I would have bought it. And I was like talking, and I was like, "Hey man, those are great hats." He's like, "You want one?" I was like, "Absolutely." So I need to be reminded I owe Grant a TXPS hat to trade for this one, but I'm sure I'll see Dallas Christian soon enough. But listen, DC and Grace aren't in the same division anymore. I've buried my old rivalry with DC. I still have bad memories on Wheeler Field, don't get me wrong, but for this hat, I can lay all that aside.
That's a based opinion. It's a based opinion, but the Wilson brothers or whatever over there at Tyler Grace boo this man.
You need to at where?
Tyler Grace Community.
I'm trying to like rein in my anger. I didn't. Not a lot of DC people call it Tyler Grace when I was over there, which I think.
Hey, there you go.
I think there was a lot of restraint from them, or they just didn't even have Grace on their mind, which I don't blame them. I think DC has bigger fish to fry at this point. That being said, shout out to St. Thomas for the merch. I said before we even started recording, I didn't even notice from a distance it was a St. Thomas shirt. That shirt is fire. It is fantastic.
Yeah, this is fire. The hat's fire too. I can actually this is not like wearing a high school. This is like fire, like apparel that I could wear to like out and about that I do. I also wear my Midland hat. I wear that regularly. The peace hat. I wear that actually regularly. So shout out if y'all have merch or swag, send it to us. We'll wear it on the pod.
We are walking billboards. We have no shame about anything. We will wear literally anything, I promise you. But I was about to say, between DC, St. Thomas, and Midland, I'm not really sure who's got the best merch that we've received. It's all fantastic. We need, for our next drop, we need to take notes from all these schools and start incorporating stuff they do, because they release fantastic apparel. That being said, our merch shop is now officially closed. We just got the numbers back, and Walker can tell you, my mouth fell open. I am floored by the support that we got from this whole community. The apparel line is something that we put a ton of work and effort and inspiration into, and the fact that people actually bought the stuff and supported us, I don't know. I'm at a loss for words. I can't say how thankful I am to everyone. Walker, what does it mean to you that people rally and support us in the way they do?
It's honestly amazing. Like we were trying to figure out, like we spent months on this, and like all the messages like, oh, stay tuned, and it showed that all those messages and all the hard work behind the scenes paid off. And when we dropped it in, it's not like we have bad taste, me and you, and like we were like, okay, this is something really cool. And then we did the QB retreat, and they were all like, okay, this is sick, like this is awesome. So we knew we had something special, and the fact that all of y'all thought it was too it's awesome, man. And we all appreciate it. And hopefully, we do another apparel line soon. Watch out, late October, November, maybe around that time, could be doing something more.
Absolutely. Again, can't say thank you enough. Just absolutely floored and so grateful for the support from everyone. But that being said, can't stay on that too long. Got to move the show along. So we will transfer into the pick records from last week. Walker, you went 15-4. I went 14-5 on the week. That brings our records respectively. You are 58-18. I am 57-19. A razor thin margin, might be the closest we've had a race at this point in the season. It's going to be really interesting. I think the more and more we do this, the more years we get into it, we get a better eye for navigating the early parts of the season, which I might just be talking out of my butt. We might have just gotten a little lucky. This past week, 15-4, 14-5, not the greatest records on planet Earth. Also not bad at all. It's a pretty standard week by most books. I'll let you speak. You edged me by a game here. Pretty good records here through 4 weeks of the season. Your thoughts on where the pick records stand?
Yeah, I'm happy where I'm at. We're close, but one game is still one game advantage, and I love to see it. I want to say, we both picked Fort Worth Christian wrong. I picked St. Mark's wrong. You picked Regents wrong, and we both picked St. Paul and Brazos Christian wrong. And you also picked New Braunfels Christian. So that's where we went off. I just had one less, and that one less. Shout out to St. Thomas, man. This is what we love to see. And shout out Houston Northland. Those guys rock. So those were my saviors this week.
Yeah, we might be previewing a Northland game here later in the script, so I might get a chance to change courses there, but we will see. That will be interesting. That being said, I'm not mad at a 14-5 week. I'm never going to complain unless I go dangerously close to 500 or below. But is what it is. I will try to make up some ground, and I may or may not be trying to find the website that I ordered the trophy from, because it may or may not still be missing to this point. I don't know how I lost the pick record trophy that I won. Technically, you're the only person that hasn't gotten to hold the pick trophy record yet, because Walker was season 1, I was season 2. If things shift the way they do and you're in the lead right now, you might get an acceptance speech in Waco. We'll see.
Please, that would be awesome. I need the trophy. I'm the one. You see, this year I came into this season. I was like, okay, I'm going to be more focused. I can't be lackadaisical with my picks and just be like, oh, I'll pick this one. No, I got to be focused this year. So that's what I'm doing.
Well, it's paying off to this point, given the record. So hopefully that holds going forward. But that'll conclude our talk on our pick records. We will now move into the scoreboard recap presented by TXPS Media. So we will talk about the 5 games on the left-hand side of the column in detail in our recap of week 4. But Walker, before that, we're going to try something different. We're going to take the 20 or so remaining games and just give a one-word bullet point thought on each of the games. So we're going to start with Fort Bend Christian and TCA Addison and move down the list. I'm workshopping this in real time. I'm trying to think if I'll say one sentence. One sentence is better. I don't know if one word. Okay. So just one sentence each game. I will give you the honor of going first with Fort Bend Christian and TCA Addison.
Okay. That was close, district.
Yeah, I'm gonna say might be time to panic. It's yeah. Oh, I guess just one word. Okay, South Oak Cliff Parish Episcopal. I'll go first. Understand.
Rough start, better finish.
Yeah, very fair. Concordia Lutheran South. Shout out Concordia Lutheran.
Shout out Concordia Lutheran.
There we go. Fort Worth Christian, Lake Country.
I did not see this coming.
Confirms my preseason thoughts about what I heard at 7-on-7. Yeah, we might be in trouble in FWC. Southwest Christian, John Paul II. I'll let you speak on that one.
Good win. Start of hopefully something special.
2018 would have yielded a different result.
That's such a dig for no reason.
I'm sorry. It's the first thing that came to mind. Well, JP2 was still really good in 2018, were they not?
Yeah. By the way,
Yeah.
I want to shout out Landon Hayes for being at the Lake Country Forest Christian game, one of our interns. Shout out to him. He had a good one, and he said Lake Country looks pretty good for had a good game. I want to shout out one guy on the particular. I know we were gonna do this, but I have to shout him out. We have a younger White's brother. Hayden White's has a younger brother, Ryan White's, who's a 2026. He had 2 touchdowns and a pick 6. We have another White's man over there at Lake Country, and I'm excited to see him grow. That's it. All right, next game.
Midland Christian, San Antonio Cornerstone. I like Brandon Brunson a lot.
Great game by Colton Newsome. Excited to see District. That's a comma in the middle.
There we go. Perfect. St. Mark's and Frisco Legacy. Hopefully Frisco falters in District. That's a very biased Grace opinion on the
podcast. Great start for Frisco. Worried about St. Mark's.
There we go. Brownsville. See, I thought Victoria St. Joseph.
Yeah, you said it. You said it. Okay, you said it on the podcast or on the live thing wrong, and so I texted my friend that thing you sent, and I was like, your magic worked, and he was like, oh my god, I hate them. Oh, but you're absolutely wrong. It was the other way around. I went, oh, for real? He's like, yeah.
Okay. So my sentence for Brownsville versus Victoria is maybe Victoria will stop chirping us.
Not even makes sense. Shout out to Brownsville, the Bloodhounds.
Covenant Christian beats Oak Ridge 41-7. Are we sure Enow's not still there?
To answer your question, his younger brother is still there, but shout out to Vernon Wells.
That's a very shout out Vernon Wells. That's a good point. First Baptist Drums Dallas Covenant. Elijah Kaysen is the best receiver in the state? ?
Rebuttal. Dallas First Baptist has the best receiving core in the state? ?
Yeah, I think we could settle on that. St. Dominic Savio beats JP2. Savio back, period.
Layton, Duplantier, Williams, Humphreys. Back.
Absolutely. Houston Northland beats New Braunfels Christian. It was opposite day.
Shout out to Northland and Coach Allen, man. Shout out Coach Allen.
Central Texas Christian whops Brazos Christian. Everything good in Brazos ?
A lot of question marks down there in Bryan for sure.
Yeah. Houston Christian beats Fort Worth Country Day. Business as expected.
Rise of Houston Christian should not be understated.
Absolutely. Argyle Liberty Christian destroys Grapevine Faith 56-3. More room for Grace Community at the top of District 2.
Liberty is Liberty is going through Division 2 teams and Division 1 teams like TCCH did back in the day.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Episcopal blanks Nolan Catholic 56-0. Next question.
Man. Nolan might have to take the JP2 route in a couple of years.
Golly. Grace Prep whips Coram Deo 49-27. Coram Deo Burners, where are you at?
That's a good sentence. Shout out to Colberg, who will be covering the Grace Prep Cistercian game this week.
There we go. Lubbock Christian beats Waco Riker 96-0. Who hurt you?
96? What?
Okay, how is that even possible? How do you score 96 points in an 11-man football game in this economy?
Did Walker Horn play the entire game and just start do they not have a team? Did Riker just I don't even think in enough minutes you could score 96. That shouldn't be possible.
That doesn't make any sense to me at all. Anyways, Bay Area Christian beats Rose Hill 38-35. I had the over.
Bay Area need to know more about that squad.
That's a good point. I feel like we say that every year. We need to
they're in such
intern. It's in a weird spot. We will never get there for a game unless it's not even far enough that we can justify flying. We're gonna need to get a prop plane or a seaplane or something.
It's a 2.5-hour drive to the other side of Houston. I might as well just go to Galveston. That's what we should do. rephrase it. We're going to go on a Galveston trip, and then on the way down, we're going to go by Bay Area.
I like that a lot. But anyways, yeah, that actually went better than expected. Much harder to conform your thoughts to a single sentence on like 35 games. But
I love
that being said, that was the TXPS Media Scoreboard powered by Ryan Schroeder. Anyways, week 3, moving into a recap, some really good games, starting off with a game that I got very much wrong. Not only the pick, also with the quarterback's name. I apologize, Wyatt Francis. Wyatt Davis is one of our good friends from Midland Christian who does a fantastic job in the media department. Sorry, I get all my Wyatts mixed up. That's my fault. Anyways, Legacy Prep improves to 4-0 on the season with a 34-26 win over Shiner St. Paul. Quarterback Wyatt Francis has a heck of a night behind 400 yards and 5 touchdowns through the air. Francis found junior Clint Recall for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, while senior Kyle Prazak went for 150 yards and a score. Sophomores Blake Prazak and Jacob Toutfest also reined in touchdowns on the contest. Jackson Bryant and Luke Pivanka both had big games defensively, coming up with an interception each. So, Walker, I got this game very much wrong. I thought that we both got it wrong. I thought, and I doubled down when you texted me and was like, we might have gotten this. I'm shaky on the pick. And I was like, no, commit. St. Paul's going to pull it out. They did not. The air attack won over the rushing attack. Your thoughts on Legacy Prep winning this game?
Yeah, I shout out to Wyatt Francis. Yeah, we didn't know your name at the beginning. We definitely know your name now. That's how impressive he looked on Friday night. Shout out to you, man. Yeah, very, very impressive. A guy that we kind of knew for a while that was a solid, steady quarterback there after Tyler Prazak left, and he looks really, really good, man. And man, he's a solid player, man. He had 5 touchdowns on the night, and I really like this Rachel recall. I'm gonna say
Rashaw. I don't know. Well, we're just butchering every Legacy Prep.
I'm sorry, guys, but shout out to Clinton, man. He looks impressive. 6'4", 185. Really good person in the track and field with the vertical. Like he's impressive, man. And not having him as a receiver with Kyle Prazak and others like you mentioned, they're a solid squad. And we talked about it before the season. I said they could be some to kind of shape some things up in TAPS Division 3 TAPS Division 3. It could happen again this year. I'm intrigued to see how this team goes. Shiner, we picked Shiner because we knew a little bit more about them, and they run the offense that you don't see every week, and so it's hard to stop them. But that's exactly what they did. So they didn't exactly stop them. It was a close game. It was very 8-point game. Is that true? I think that's right. My math. So, it was a close one, but at the same time, Magnolia Legacy Prep, man, shout out to them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Shout out to Magnolia Legacy. Gave us one of the funniest interviews that we've ever conducted that will probably never see the light of day. Moving on into Second Baptist at Houston St. John's. Walker, you were at this game, so there's no one better to detail it than you. Go ahead and tell us what you saw.
Yeah, it was I stayed down in Houston Thursday and Friday. It was an awesome time. I got some Chewies. I left my AirPods at that Chewies right next to St. John's. So I have to go back down to Houston for a game. I'm gonna have to go grab them. So that's funny. But great environment. St. John's was awesome even on a Thursday. Shout out to the student section. Y'all were so much fun, and it was a great environment. Talking about the game, Second Baptist, I'll start with Second Baptist. The score was 28-7, I believe is the final score. JD Crisp, Cannon Toon, and Turner Murdoch are all out for Second Baptist, so some of their biggest players are out, which is rough. You hate to see. Turner Murdoch is probably going to be out for the rest of the year. That's a huge loss for them. And Cannon Toon got hurt in their game, not against St. John's, but the previous one, so he'll be out as well. JD Chris is also a guy that's out, and I think he'll be back probably for district, but we'll see. But without 3 of their starting players, they still didn't look terrible. Their offense was started by a quarterback, was a true sophomore who that was his first ever varsity experience. And so, of course, he threw a pick 6, and they didn't really get to pass the ball because he's never, that's never happened before. But the run game was decent against a defensive line that, I'll say this, I'll transition to this. St. John's was not that bad in the trenches. And that's what kind of stood out to me is, I've always kind of said that they're good at the skill positions, but a Bel Air team might win in the trenches over them. But their offensive defensive lines did not look bad at all, and that might be something to watch out for. That they can kind of win some battles in district, and some SBC 4A teams. But so shout out to their offensive and defensive lines. Y'all played really, really well. Second Baptist, I think they can win some games with the defense they play. Stopping a high-powered offense like St. John's to only 28 points is impressive. And one of those being one of them being a pick six. So that's impressive. They only let him score 3 times. What was it? Stephen Gill, I think, scored once. With Cole Allen scored twice. I think that's how it ended up. So I think Second Baptist has a good future going into district. I don't think they need to doubt themselves. I think it's going to be okay. St. John's, I think this team looks really, really good. The weapons the weapons they have at the skill positions. Yaya Mir, the corner they have is a very impressive player, as long as, Michael Murphy, Stephen Gill, Cole Allen, Logan Donnelly, Will Hoffrecht, others. That was another guy that kind of stood out to me. But they have the weapons, the skill positions, and their offensive line and defensive lines looked impressive. They could be a team to watch out for in SBC 4A.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll raise you this question. Do you think that we're going to see them at the SBC championship game? Because looking at the state of SBC 4A right now, I think it's between them and ESD for that second spot behind EHS.
100%. And I think, they're almost there last year. If Cole Allen was fully healthy, a couple of those games could have changed some scores. So I think they have the talent to do it. And, I think they're definitely a team that you could definitely see there. So I'm excited for them to prove me right,
That will be interesting. Yeah, we're talking about some of the best receiving cores, in the state. St. John certainly has one between Michael Murphy, Cole Allen, Will Hoffrecht, Owen Almy. They're good. And especially with Stephen Gill throwing to them, they're always going to be in games behind that star power. So the outlook of SBC 4A is certainly going to be interesting. We will comment more on that as the always wild SBC race unfolds later in the season. But Walker, Lott, I'm going to hand it right back off to you to another game. You're just all over the state putting in work this year. Regents at St. Thomas, one of the marquee matchups of the season. I can't imagine how fantastic of a game to be at with all the star power. What'd you see and what'd you take away?
Yeah, I always say it. St. Thomas rivals the best environments I've ever seen in the state. It's such a great environment, such a good place to go watch a game. Their student section is awesome. They go from the top to the bottom of the student section of the stands. It's incredible. I haven't been to Central Catholic, so before the Central guys come at me, it's a really inviting environment. But what a game! It felt like zero defense was being played for because of the score 51-41, but it was not even that. It was just more how impressive these offenses were. Like the defense was there playing, but these offenses, man, were incredible. I'll first start out with this. Dante Lewis. That guy.
That dude. Yeah.
That dude. He's incredible, man. I think he has a great argument to being the best quarterback in 2024 in the state TXPS. He has a great argument for it. His ability, the offensive line for St. Thomas held they were very good, very good. But of course, over time, they let a guy through here and there. Dante Lewis never got sacked the entire game. Anytime he was even close, his pocket awareness is some of the best I've ever seen. He is Johnny Manziel like, and I mean that wholeheartedly. It's insane. That run, I'll put it on because it's so impressive. That run is one of the best plays I've ever seen live. It was incredible. I'm being 100% real. I think he's a Division I quarterback. You cannot tell me you watch that guy in person and say he cannot play at the next level. If I was Kansas State, I know you're going there for baseball. Football better be calling you too. Like, I don't know who they have a quarterback, but I mean, that guy, Dante Lewis, can give you a run for his money. He can throw the ball 70 yards and he can run with the best of them. I don't know. We said it before. I really think this team, if it stays together and beats the injury bug, this team could be a team we see in Waco come December. I really do believe that. Johan Cardenas, you talked about the game, Wes, and you made the pick of Regents because you didn't think he was going to be back. I had a sneaky suspicion he was going to be, and he came back and he was ready to go. And I want to pull up the stat line for you. In his first game back, 40 touches. He touched the ball 40 times that game, 178 rushing yards and 124 receiving yards. With also, I think, 2 touchdowns on the day. Yeah, that man is good. And I was talking to some guys around the state that were there for the game, because of course they saw this matchup and they went to it, and they were talking, they're like, oh, so he's committed to Vanderbilt? Like, really? And I was like, yes. And they were like, I was like, just get ready. And he did one-handed catch over the middle, broke a couple guys and stayed on his feet, and then used that speed of his, and everyone went, oh, okay, I see it now. And he's impressive, man. And I think that backfield is the best in the state. No one can argue me. Maddox Reed and Cole Welliver might have another argument. Or not Maddox Reed, Chase Garnett and Cole Welliver and Sawyer Anderson and Maddox Reed have the only other argument. Those are the only two. And I would probably take them two over. I'm being real.
I will say Keldon Ryan and Reed Watkins is also up
that's
there.
another good one. But Johan is insane. He's so hard to tackle. He always leans forward, and then Dante doesn't get sacked. He just doesn't. He's so elusive. He's great in the pocket. He knows when he leaves, and he's so elusive and quick, and it's just, man, that backfield. And you also have a guy like Edgecombe, Benton, and Blaze. I think Blaze, everyone was celebrating Blaze, so I'm going to guess it was his first touchdown of the season or maybe something like that. So, but having him as a tight end is awesome. Like, they have receivers galore. With Michael Anthony Cooper being out, the defensive line still held strong. Albina Ume got banged up for the second half, but I think he'll be back soon. But Tyler Day, I would, there's guys that I watched play live, and I'm like, man, I would have loved to play with him back in the day because his energy is so great and he plays so well. And Tyler Day is one of them. He was 100% on go the entire game. Energy brings something that you just want to a defense, and it's so much fun to watch him play. And he's such a good dude too. Besides that, I think St. Thomas is a good squad, and they're poised for another year. The Bonner, the younger Bonner brother, was also pretty impressive at the corner. And that's kind of what I'll say about them. Regents, and the offensive defensive lines for Regents are going to maybe be their downfall. A team like St. Thomas is bigger than them, and that's just part of it. But I don't know if they have, I'm going to be very intrigued to see the defense of Second Baptist play them in a couple of games. Their firepower on the skills and the quarterback, very good. This offensive defensive lines are going to be interesting to watch. Hudson Powell, dog. That man deserves Division I offers. I'm not saying it. 6'7", he's freakishly athletic. He's so impressive. They put him at the outside linebacker, and honestly, most of the time, no one was able to run his way. He was able to stop everything. What was the downfall, I'm going to say, for St. Thomas, and I'm going to say it's because I know ball.
Regents?
Yes. I said on the pod last episode, if you put Hudson Powell out there, and you line them one-on-one, there's not a corner on St. Thomas that can match him up. They did not play Hudson Powell on the offensive side of the ball for the first half, which I don't know why, but they didn't. And then in the second half, he scored already. He made a lot of big plays to drive down the field and help them score every time they needed to do a good drive down and score. So I think that was a downfall for them, being real. But I think he's a fantastic player, and I think he deserves a Division I offer. I think he deserves Division I looks. On the other side, Chili Sire looked impressive. The offensive line was okay. A couple other guys were impressive. Jacob Wilburn in the middle was impressive as well. And finally, we'll talk about the man himself, Quinn Murphy, threw 6 touchdowns on the night, which is extremely impressive. There was times, I will say, I think there was times that St. Thomas made him look like a sophomore, which is a compliment, because the fact that probably 90% of the time you look like a Division I prospect as a sophomore is insane. But there's sometimes that there's throws that weren't made because of pressure and stuff like that he just looked like a sophomore. But he was so impressive. That throw I got from him, it was a 40-yard bomb to Blake Smith. It was a flick of the wrist, 40 yards in the bucket. It was so impressive. And it just solidified me that he will be one of the best quarterbacks in the state, in the country. It's how he is. He has all the tools and tangibles. He has the size. He has everything you want to be a premier quarterback in the state, in the country. So Regis looks good. I think they'll be fine going into district, of course. And playoffs are going to be interesting to see how they do at the line of scrimmage. But St. Thomas looks poised to be maybe going back to Waco for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, definitely. So I won't add a whole lot to that, but St. Thomas, obviously, we've said before, has one of, if not the most talented roster in the entire state regarding private schools. It's just ridiculous how much talent they have. I do think, we always seem to count our chickens before they hatch with St. Thomas, and then inevitably something like an Antonian happens. But I mean, we'll see. I will say there's no excuse for them not to be in Waco. They seem to clearly be the second best team in D1, maybe barring Prestonwood, depending on how they develop. We'll see. As for Regents, I'm the same way with him as I am St. Thomas in D2. I think we'll see Regents in Waco. I think they'll beat Second Baptist, and I think they'll get to the state championship. Now, how they match up against most likely Liberty or All Saints going to come out of there, I don't know. But these are two elite teams doing battle, and a good team came out and won, and even there was a good team that lost. So I don't think you can extrapolate a whole lot. Both teams are going to be very good going forward. Moving on into two teams I just mentioned in that little spiel right there. Fort Worth All Saints at Prestonwood Christian. All Saints narrowly retains their undefeated status, knocking off Prestonwood 34-27. Reed Watkins accounts for 316 all-purpose yards and 2 touchdowns, leading the Saints offense in this one. Virginia Tech commit quarterback Keldon Ryan is also efficient on the ground, going for 125 yards and averaging 8 per carry. Looking at Prestonwood, Tulane commit Kellen Tasby throws for 273 yards and 3 touchdowns, while Takashi Shaw and Gunnar Naviar have impressive performances at their positions, going for 103 and 92 on the ground and through the air, respectively. So, Walker, I honestly think this is a good showing for Prestonwood. Even though they lost, All Saints is an elite team in D2, and after they kind of got stomped by Liberty, I really wanted to watch them closely for the next few weeks and see how they responded. Donnie Yantis and company are going to be fine, but All Saints looks like they're rounding into form earlier than they did last year. What are your thoughts on what both teams are going to take away from this?
Yeah, I won't speak much because I think my voice is going a little bit, but I think for All Saints and, Reed Watkins was a guy I mentioned in the spring that I was like, okay, this guy's going to have some juice and have a going to be a great asset for this offense for All Saints. And he proved it last Friday. Prestonwood, I think, is fine. They're just, they play a very tough non-district schedule, and that's just how the cookie crumbles. And I think Prestonwood definitely should take stuff from this. And if anything, they should see, Prestonwood in the last game of the season, be like, that's the one we circled to finally get the revenge for losing for the past couple of years. If they put everything together, they have the talent to do it. They just need to put it together,
Yeah, exactly. It'll be interesting. It's never a given how these elite teams develop, and I'm very curious who's going to be at the top of the pile as the season winds down. But that being said, we will move into our final game to recap, a game that I was live on site at, Dallas Christian facing Bishop Lynch. The Charger Stars shine bright under the Texas lights in a statement win against Bishop Lynch. DC knocks off the Friars 41-28 behind 250 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns from Purdue commit Speedy Nettles. Senior athlete Corey Taylor also eclipsed the century mark receiving and added a touchdown of his own, as well as an absolutely vicious hit from the corner position. There's usually only maybe 1 or 2 plays a year that get the stick treatment from me, where I overlay the hit with stick by JID in Dreamville. That was certainly one. We had it on our Instagram story back on Friday. Shout out Corey Taylor. Just, you don't see guys that weigh like 170 pounds making hits that brutal very often. But that being said, back into the recap. Junior quarterback Luke Carney looks even more polished in his junior campaign, accounting for almost 500 all-purpose yards and 5 Charger scores. Porter Nix looked dominant defensively with a huge forced fumble as the first half was winding down to swing the momentum in the Chargers' favor. As for Bishop Lynch, listen, I had Charger fans and coaches while I was on the sideline being like, man, number 27 can run the dadgum ball. And it's true. God's Will Giudolor is fantastic. One of the toughest runners in all of Division One. And Legend and Ty Bradley are, and they proved it in this game, one of the best quarterbacks and receivers in Division One. Now you might be questioning why I'm saying that, as they lost to a D3 team. DC is a D3 team in name only. DC, you stick DC in the middle of Division One, and they're going to go pretty deep in the playoffs. It's crazy how much talent they have. But that being said, yeah, Legend Howell looked really good. Like you said about guys that it's kind of crazy to think they're sophomores. It's crazy to think Legend Howell's a sophomore. Starting all those games, every single game his freshman year gave him a wealth of experience, and he looks like a seasoned quarterback standing out there at only like, I guess, 15, 16 years old, which is wild. Ty Bradley was far and away the best receiver for Lynch in this game. Just he brings a huge mismatch with his size at like probably like 6'5". Also has great speed, great straight line speed. He's going to make a lot of waves in D1. But Walker, two elite offenses go to battle. DC gets the win. Your thoughts on DC just rolling through Division One for another year?
Yeah, I won't say much. Big win for DC. I'm very excited to see Lynch. Like you said, I think they're going to score some points on some teams that you might not expect this year. And I'm excited for this Lynch team. I think their offense is very, very scary. And I'm excited to see how they do. So I really like this. I like you. I picked God's Will on my fantasy team this past summer, and I knew he would be an elite back for that reason. And so, yeah. Shout out DC, shout out Lynch. Now DC kind of gets to start cruising for the for the rest of this season.
Exactly. I was telling everyone on the sidelines, I was like, listen, like this week is the last big test for DC, referring to last week, the game against Bishop Lynch. I mean, no shade to Nolan or Fort Worth Christian or any of the D3 squads, but none of them are even, they're not even going to remotely test DC. Like I want to be honest, for the rest of the season, I don't think you're going to see anyone come close to Dallas Christian. I think this game against Bishop Lynch was the last time that they would even remotely sweat. Now, I'm not even going to pretend like there's any way a district team can, even in playoffs, like until we get to Cypress. And even then, I don't think it's a particularly balanced matchup. But that being said, shout out Dallas Christian, shout out to a much improved Bishop Lynch squad. Will be interesting years going forward to both of them. So that being said, we are now moving into my personal favorite segment we do on this podcast. Do they cover? Referring to Dallas Christian and Parish Episcopal. This was born out of necessity last year whenever we couldn't even preview any DC or Parish games because they weren't worth covering because they smacked every team they played. So we decided to give them their own allotment of time each week, asking, do they cover against their respective schools? This segment might not have made much sense to this point in the season because their matchups are a lot more competitive, but I promise it'll make more sense once we get into district, and it's almost not even worth covering these games. As for this week, DC is a 23.5-point favorite against Nolan Catholic, former Division I giant Nolan Catholic. Walker, I'm going to let you go first and say if DC covers a 23.5-point spread against Nolan.
Yes.
Yeah, I would take this number I would take this number all the way up to like 38 points. No shade to Nolan Catholic. But even Nolan fans were telling us this summer it's a rebuild year. And I was talking to DC fans on the sideline. I forget that like not everyone knows every single thing about every realm of private school sports. And I was talking to them, I was like, he was my uncle actually who coaches at DC. And I was like, and it's the context of this is funny because every year my uncle tells me, I ask how DC is going to be, and he's like, oh man, we're not going to be any good this year. We don't have any good players. He's been telling me this since I was 15 in high school playing them, and he's always just lying through his teeth. So I was like, he's like, you know anything about Nolan? I was like, huge rebuild year. Like, I was like, y'all aren't like, it's not even going to be a close game. And he was like, all right, so how are they really? I'm like, no, I'm being serious. I'm not lying to you like you lie to me. Like, Nolan, seriously, it's a rebuild year. He still didn't believe me, but they'll see next week whenever they beat Nolan by 50. But yeah, I'm gonna take DC to cover a 23.5-point spread against Nolan Catholic. I'm not really gonna think twice about it. No shade to Nolan. It's just, DC rolling ball of chainsaws. Add any adjective you want in there. All right, so now into a more interesting start to the year for Parish Episcopal. The spreads haven't been nearly as easy to guess. This week, they are an 11.5-point dog at China Springs. I'm trying to think. They did not cover the spread last week against Sauk. We both picked that they wouldn't. They're an 11.5-point dog against China Springs. I'm going to have to guess that China Springs covers that spread. I know it's not really like not great private school representation here, but it's China Springs. I mean, come on. Parish is great. They're going to be really, really good in district. I have gotten a tip from a source that they've had some pretty significant injuries in the past couple weeks, which is going to further my claim that they do not cover an 11.5-point spread at China Springs.
They played Waco Connolly last week. Oh, wow. Waco Connolly, the home of Kobe Black, the 5-star defensive back. China Springs is the home of Cash McCollum, the quarterback, who's committed to North Texas. Yeah. The more you know about Texas high school football. Yeah, I think they cover. China Springs is coming off a state championship, and I think they do it again. So, yeah, give me whatever China Springs to cover.
Yeah, I'll take that. I think this might be this is probably the last game we're gonna pick Parish not to cover a spread, and it'll be new Parish fans are wondering why they're not destroying all these games they're playing. It's because you're playing the best teams in the state of Texas. Don't worry, the success will come. Just stay calm. But with all that being said, we will now move into the next part of our other news segment, the TXPS Power Rankings, and let's get right into them. The first 6 remain the same. EHS at number 1, Liberty at number 2, Parish at number 3, St. Thomas at number 4, Fort Worth All Saints at number 5. Plano Prestonwood drops down with a loss at number 6, Dallas Christian at number 7, Regents drops to number 8 with their loss. First Baptist and St. John's remain the same, rounding out the top 10. So Walker, the same teams in the top 10, a little bit of shifting due to some losses, and anything big to report here?
Yeah, no, St. Thomas moves up, which I definitely do believe. I think they're the 4th best team in the state. All Saints is right behind them, move up, and Plano Preston, because of course they lost. All Saints move down below them. Regents loses the STH, so they move down 1. DC moves above them for beating a Division 1 team. And I think it's pretty good. I think these are the top 10 teams in the state. It's going to be interesting to see how they all, parallel and go up and go down and how they rotate for the next couple of weeks.
I agree with you. It'll be interesting. I don't foresee a lot of huge shifting, but we'll see. Sports are a funny thing. You never really know what's coming next. But that being said, we are going to move on into our games of the week, but not before a word from our favorite sponsors at High Point Signs and Apparel. Walker, we just went on a long spiel at the beginning of the episode of how thankful we were for everyone that bought our merchandise, and that would not have been possible without High Point Signs and Apparel. I can't state how fantastic the quality of the product is that we put out, and more importantly, how easy they were to work with. I mean, you feel like taking on a task as daunting as creating your own apparel line would be incredibly difficult, but it really wasn't. It was super seamless thanks to the help of the guys at High Point Signs and Apparel. Listen, they don't miss deadlines. They provide exceptional customer service. They will meet or beat any price you give them. And they create online stores that can provide your employees with apparel, or they can be profit centers. Listen, I mean, they are fantastic. They work with some of the biggest brands in the state. Shout out to Texas A&M. Walker, what do you have to say about the guys at High Point Signs and Apparel?
No, they're awesome, man. They've been nothing but the best to us, and we're so excited to continue working with them even after this apparel drop. They're awesome. They're just they do it the right way. They're good people, and when we needed help on anything, any small thing, they were there to help us out. And it was quick, easy, nothing hard about the whole process of working with them. So shout out to them. Definitely go check out High Point Signs and Apparel.
Absolutely. So shout out to High Point Signs and Apparel. The link to their website will be in our show notes. Please go check them out. I can't overstate how fantastic they are. Thank you to High Point Signs and Apparel for sponsoring this episode. So, Walker, with that being said, we will now move into my actual favorite segment of the week, our 5 games of the week, starting with Grapevine Faith at Fort Worth Christian. Fort Worth Christian is a 4.5-point favorite in this matchup, courtesy of Massey ratings. Yet again, we don't make the spreads. I feel like I need to reiterate that now, because even people at DC were like, y'all spreads are awful. And I'm like, well, a computer makes them. So we don't do that. We didn't even program the machine that makes them. That being said, A cross-district matchup will take place Friday as the Lions of Faith will travel to the North Richland Hills to take on the Cardinals. Faith is coming off a 53-6 shellacking at the hands of Liberty, but at the end of the day, that's excusable given that Liberty can do that to just about anyone in the state. Fort Worth Christian is coming off of a less excusable loss at the hands of Lake Country Christian Sands Daughter Twins. I'll be blunt. This game boils down to can Bryce Bradley, Tucker Ashford, and company stop Clayton Sebecki? I think that the Lions will get key contributions from Ben Wagner and McConnell Gorman, and that's why I like them in this game. Now, granted, I don't want them to look too good because I really, really want Grace Community to win district this year. But that being said, given this matchup, I think Fort Worth Christian's in a bit of a free fall as a program. There's no shade to them, but that's just what I've heard rumblings around their program. Of course, now that I say that, they're going to come out and prove me wrong and chirp me, but I really do like Faith in this game. I know they've had some tough sledding in the last couple games against really, really good teams. I'm still a stark Clayton Sebecki believer, and I think they'll get it done here.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I think Clayton Sebecki and company are really, really good. And I'm gonna pick the Lions in this one. I think Lake Country is a better team than we give credit, and I think they have a lot of solid players. And I think that win over Fort Worth Christian proved it. But a team like Fort Worth Christian should never even be in that type of game. They just shouldn't be. And the Fort Worth Christian I grew up playing definitely was never like that. I just don't think that should be a team that I can pick on right now. So give me Grapevine Faith.
So we got two members of the podcast picking Grapevine Faith against Fort Worth Christian. Will be a very good game, I think.
Yeah.
Coming this week. Moving on into the second game to preview Central Texas at Magnolia Legacy Prep. Legacy getting some clout on the podcast for the second week in a row. No spread for this game, but Friday will display two hot D3, D4 teams facing off in Magnolia as Legacy Prep takes on Central Texas Christian. Central Texas is 2-2 on the year, but they're coming off of a big win at Brazos Christian, who are one of our preseason favorites in the division. The Lions lean heavily on a run-first attack led by senior Tabor Tyson. Tyson had 247 yards and I'll say that again, 6 touchdowns in a single game against Brazos Christian, and he'll be eager to replicate that success this week against Magnolia Legacy. However, the Lions are the opposite side of the coin. They boast a prominent air bombardment led by senior quarterback Wyatt Francis. That's Wyatt Francis, not Wyatt Davis. And with athletes like Kyle and Blake Prazak, as well as Clint Rashall, there is going to be no shortage of action in Magnolia this Friday. Last week, if we'll go back in our time machine and watch that clip, I took a proven rushing attack to beat a passing one in a similar clash of styles. Now, I'm notoriously stubborn and hard-headed and very, very slow to admit when I'm wrong. You're not going to hear that from me very often, and I'm not going to say that here. However, I will reverse course, and I'm going to go all in on Francis and the Lions of Magnolia Legacy Prep in this one. They kind of opened my eyes last week. I haven't heard a lot about them since that was Tyler Prazak. Yeah.
Yes.
Since Tyler Prazak was there. There's I guess just a wealth of Prazaks roaming around Magnolia Legacy since they've got 2 on the team this year. Wow. And for that reason, I like their passing attack here. Yeah, I'm going to take Magnolia Legacy Prep.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with you. When you can do an air raid that well and you can throw the ball on anyone, that's a team that's hard to beat. And I really like this team. I think they showed it last week against Shiner St. Paul that they can do it. And yeah, give me Magnolia Legacy. I think Central Texas is a better team than Shiner this year, so it's gonna be close. But give me Legacy Prep.
I like that pick. I think that'll be a very good game, hence why we're discussing it. Moving on, Mercy Culture at Dallas First Baptist. The spread is First Baptist minus 32.5. Yet again, we don't make the spreads. 2 remaining undefeated squads will do battle this week as Mercy Culture travels across the Metroplex to meet First Baptist. Mercy Culture suffered a huge loss as D4 MVP candidate John Raybuck tore his PCL. However, there's still certainly viable athletes on the squad behind Josh Marshall, Roman Emmerich, and Landon Martinez. It also can't be discounted that Coach Sean Riley will be able to steady the ship. However, without Raybuck, I don't see how they overpower one of the most insanely talented teams in the history of Division IV. I fully expect McCoy, Kaysen, Sadu Robinson, and Mitchell to show up in a big way this Friday and secure a statement win at home. Listen, Jason Lavorne told me following the Brazos Christian game that, or he told Steven to tell me that to make sure I kept picking against them to give them motivation. And I said, despite you, I'm never going to pick against you the rest of the year. That's going to hold true here. I'm going to very stoutly take First Baptist in this game.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with you, man. Mercy Culture is a team right in the heart of Fort Worth that, it's a team that's grown in the past couple of years, and I think with Sean Riley at the helm, they've done a really good job. But kid like John Raybuck, that's too hard of a loss to make me consider picking them. Even if they had Raybuck, it would be a hard choice not to pick First Baptist right now for how much points they're putting up each week. But yeah, without Raybuck, that's gonna be hard. So give me First Baptist.
Absolutely. That makes sense to me. Moving on into the second to last game that we will preview, that is Northland Christian at Hollettsville Sacred Heart. Sacred Heart is a 7.5 point favorite in this one. Another cross-district matchup will ensue this week as Northland will head west to the big city of Hollettsville to take on Sacred Heart. Both the four squads have had success to start the young season as Northland sits at 3-1 and Sacred Heart has yet to lose a game. Northland has had success even following the graduation of star quarterback Stone Walker. The man picking up the slack here is senior running back Michael Hall, who had 185 yards and 4 touchdowns last week against New Braunfels Christian. Add in senior Jake Eaton catching passes from junior Rody Butler, and Northland is a well-oiled machine. Sacred Heart operates behind Eden Prairie transfer quarterback Jackson Rathke, a true dual threat athlete. He is a handful for any coordinator to scheme against and any defense to contain. He'll rely on top returning receiver Michael O'Brien and elite running back Sam Peters to help on the offensive side of things. As for my pick, and I left this blank because I still couldn't decide who I wanted to take in this matchup. It's a really good game. I really did think Northland was going to take a bigger step back following the loss of Stone Walker, but they really haven't. You know what? I think there's a higher chance of Northland chirping me if I get them wrong in this game. Therefore, I'm going to take Northland to win this game. I'm less afraid of Sacred Heart shooters than I am of Northland. Also, that being said, I really do think that Michael Hall is going to run crazy. I think even though the spread Sacred Heart -7.5, I'm going to have to take Northland here.
Yeah, and they have guys like, Devin Scott, Rome Stanford over there. Like, they have a good squad over there. But I'm gonna go the other side. A guy you didn't mention though is the Division I talent, Nick Angerstein, who's there at Hallettsville Sacred Heart. And the multi-weapon, he can't kick the ball, but he also is a great receiver as well. And a guy like that is a big asset at that level. And for that reason, I'm going to go with Nick Angerstein and the Hallettsville Sacred Heart team.
Absolutely. I like that. The first differing pick of the episode. That'll provide some variety for the pick record, and I pray that it works out in my direction because I will take any win I can get at this point. Moving on into the final episode, or the final game that we will recap for this episode, Houston Christian at Fort Worth Trinity Valley, a game I will be live and on-site covering, and honestly, the SBC 3A game of the year this early in the season. Spread is Trinity Valley -12.5, as Brett Kilchrist and Houston Christian will travel up 35 to take on Gavin Parkhurst and Trinity Valley. Listen, we predicted Houston Christian as the most improved team in the division, and they have showed us no reason to reconsider that statement thus far. Averaging 36 points a game on the young season, the Mustangs offense is elite, with athletes on all sides of the ball: Kilchrist, Amari Banks, Adam Shepard, Dylan Hill, the list goes on, and this is a completely different team from last season. However, coming off of an FCC title berth, the Trojans have their sights set on championship this season. Gavin Parkhurst is one of the most underrated recruits in the state, and with Big Will Scott holding the front for him, expect Parkhurst to launch bombs on Friday. You can't key in on stopping the pass. Otherwise, junior running back Ben Nagishu will gash you on the ground. You add Jacob Maynard wreaking havoc on defense. And I have to take the Trojan in this one. Listen, I love Houston Christian this year. I think Brett Kilchrist, Amari Banks, everyone I mentioned is fantastic. And I think they're probably the second best team in SBC 3A. It's just a shame they're facing the best team this week. I think this is a championship preview. We'll see these teams meet again. But in this match, I'm going to take Trinity Valley.
Interesting. I grew up not supposed to liking this team. I hated this team. And this is just not a team I was supposed to like. The Roses Bowl growing up now turned into the Dog Bowl. It's hard. It's hard for me to be like, I want to root for this team. But I do. I love the coaching staff over there. The guys over there are awesome. And I'm going to back the 817 on this one. Give me Fort Worth, Trinity Valley. The rivalries are gone. It's in the past, and it's all about, sharing this community. And I have to support the 817, and I'm going to do it this one. I've said so much about Gavin Parkhurst in this pod. I think he's a great quarterback, size and the arm to do incredible things at the collegiate level. Jacob Maynard, Will Scott, Ben Negushu, other Carter Lee, et cetera. They have the 226s, the defensive line, Aiden Atkins and Houston. They have so much talent on this squad. And I'm excited for you to go watch this, Wes, because I think it's a good one. I think this is going to be a really good game. But give me TVS in this one. And I kind of really like that spread. That spread is probably a pretty accurate spread. 12.5. That's a pretty good spread.
That's one of the spreads I've looked at this year and being like, that's somewhat accurate, because a lot of them have been horrible this early in the year. Parish 35.5 against Episcopal is one of the worst things I've ever seen. And that's the reason I'm telling everyone that we don't make the spreads, because all the Episcopal guys thought that we set that spread. I was chirped after the game. But I'm incredibly excited to watch this. I will say it again. I think this is a preview of the SBC 3A championship, and we're getting it, in the second district game of the season. I'm very, very excited. I'm sure our SBC analyst, Jack Klosek, will break that down a little further in his article this week, but it's going to be a great one. I never lose enthusiasm for going and covering Texas private school football games, and this week will be no exception. But Walker, with that being said, that actually concludes content for this episode. We just previewed week number 5. I feel like that we started this last week, but we are moving well along through the 2023 season. You want to leave people with?
Another great week. I'm excited for this week. We're finally close. We're sneaking up into more and more district games, and I'm excited about that. I filled out the game sheet, Wes, for a lot of more games on, if you want to go check that out, because we're finally getting back into the later weeks of the season. We got some smaller school games this week, man, and we gave some love to the smaller schools this week, and I'm so excited about that. So, man, that's gonna be a good week. Excited for this one. I will be at Central Texas Christian at Magnolia Legacy Prep, and then I will be on Saturday at Legacy at Bel Air Episcopal, watching the team that is so interesting and you don't know much about in Legacy School of Sports Sciences against the Bel Air Episcopal Knights. So excited about it. Another great week of Texas high school football. Thank you all for tuning in every week. And yeah, awesome.
Absolutely. So with all of that being said, as always, I am one half of your hosting crew. Walker Lott has fantastically been himself. We will see you in the next episode. See you later.
3, 2, 1.